Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com and welcome to day, I think 20 of our Rust and Go series. And basically what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of videos is exploring web frameworks in Rust and Go. So, so first we're going to take a look at Go with a framework called Echo, which I have used before, I've done videos on before. This is more like, let's say, the equivalent of Express in Rust. I think there's also another one called Revel that's also very much like Express in Go, but let's do it. And if you don't know what I mean by Express, I mean it's a minimalist framework, meaning essentially it gives you the bare bones to kind of like set up routes and set up your web server, and allows you to kind of decide like what ORMs to bring for database connections, what etc. So let's get started. Okay, so let's just walk through the documentation. Okay, what I'm going to do. Okay, so you can see here that it just kind of walks you through the thing. I am going to do exactly that. So I'm going to make a folder. I'm going to make your, Go Echo is going to be the name of the folder. And I'm going to cd into Go Echo. Okay, and then I'm going to go mod, and again, I'm just going to use my domain name as a namespace, alexmercedcoder.com/echo project. So that'll be the project that gets initiated in there. Okay, let's see here, go mod unknown command. Oh, go mod init, my bad. Go mod init, alexmercedcoder. There we go. So there is our module name. Okay, if you're working with, no, we're not using an old version of Go. We're using a recent version. So what we can do is just go get the thing. Okay, so again, go get is like npm install or any of these types of commands, like gem install or pip install. And then you paste the link to, or the URL to where that thing you're downloading is. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put that in here. Let's go get, paste. Cool, it's downloading the thing. And there you go, so it downloads it and all of its dependencies. It all gets added to my module. Okay, so this way I can kind of see what's what. Good. Wonderful. Now we can go create a file. We'll call it server.go. Again, you can call it whatever you want, but generally when you're making a web server, the initial file is called server. Okay, and of course we're going to bring in net HTTP, as we saw earlier. Like that's kind of like the thing that kickstarts the server. And then we're going to bring Echo, which is going to be the framework that's going to make, basically creating that server much easier. Like just take a lot of the things that would be kind of tedious and just make it easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this to the side. So this way I'm not switching windows as much. Okay, goody. Okay, let's just kind of walk through it. So of course we do this the normal Go stuff, package main. We're going to import. Okay, and then what I'm going to import net HTTP. And then I'm going to import github.com/labstack/echo/v4. Okay. Let's see, imported, not used. Okay, yes, something I haven't used these yet. Then we create our main function, func main. Okay. Here we go. And we're going to say e is going to equal a new echo object, echo.new. Okay. Cool. So that's going to create as a new echo object, kind of like creating a new application object in Express. And then we can use that to kind of create our routes. Which again, like Express, is going to be like the application object dot the verb, and then you put the route. So I'm going to say slash, and then you just write a function. Okay. Func, except instead of having like response writer and response and the request object, it's all bound into one thing called context, echo.context. Okay, so basically we just took those two things and put them all in one. So that way it's, you know, you can just access them in there. Error. Okay, and we're going to return c.string. Again, c is context. So that means we're saying we're returning a string. And we're going to include http.status. Okay, and that just means a 200 status. That's coming from the HTTP library in Go. That's just built into Go to be able to have these functions that give you particular statuses. That one's like just a 200 status by default. And then we're going to send the string hello world. Okay, and then we need to actually start the server. So we do e.logger. So that's going to actually make sure there's a logger to log messages. And then we're going to say e because it's the echo. Again, the echo is the application. And we're going to start the application. And we're going to start it. I'm going to start it on port 3000. Okay, and then again, the e-logger will log data if it fails and log data as we go along. So that's it. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Okay, that's much easier than if we're doing the HTTP line. Not that much easier, actually. Again, Go is, you know, the more I learn about it, the more I really appreciate like how it takes a lot of these like lower level things and makes them quite a bit easier. Okay, so in this case, what I can do is now just do go run server.go and see the server is running. Okay, we see we got that little echo message, wonderful. So now if I go to localhost 3000, hello world. Okay, so we're able to create a web server. I'm able to make my routes much easier. Because before we were just writing functions, and if we wanted to like check for like verb, I didn't have like a get function. I would just have to write a function, and then I have to check in there and do like an if the request method is get, if the this is a little bit more robust where I can like really parse out my routes by not just by URL and verb. Okay, and then just say okay, hey, if this is a match, then run this function. That's much easier. Okay, so this works out pretty well. I like this. I like this quite a bit. Okay. And again, you can see here we can just kind of keep on doing the thing. Okay, and let's just see if they show you any examples of how we can do responses. Okay, well, let's do a query param. Let's see here, see that query param. Okay. So another thing we can get is a query param. Okay, now query param, if you're not familiar with like how those work, those are like always at the end of the URL. They start with a question mark. And then it's like a key equals whatever, and then we separate another one with an ampersand. So if we want to access that through the context object, there is a key for that query param. So let's say I plan on doing adding a query param to the end of this URL, saying cheese equals Gouda. So that's the query param, and I want to access that. What I would do in the server is let's just say we'll just say QP, which is the query param, and we're going to just say it's the equal. It's going to equal C dot query param. Just make sure that there's no S there. Query param, and then the query param that I want is cheese. So it's going to search the URL string to see if there's any query params of cheese, and then I can kind of send that over instead of hello world. So say QP. Okay, and then let me restart the server. And let's see here. Let's hit enter on that. And see, I get Gouda. And if I said just cheese equals Munster, I get Munster. Okay, that's just one way to be able to deliver data to the route via URL to make these routes more dynamic. The second way is going to be through URL params. Okay, so URL params, let's see how we would do that. Okay, URL params. Here we go. So it's gonna be like express, where we use express it with a colon ID, and then the key to access those is params. So see, like this is a very straightforward API. I like it. Okay, so then, so let's just say I'll just make another route so we can have the params. So we'll say e.get slash, eat this, and say I put the colon there. That's what makes it a param. So we're gonna say func C echo.context. Okay, so that way you're not having to type both arguments. Like when you do the HTTP library, you have to type like response writer, HTTP.response writer, HTTP request. Again, by wrapping them in context, it does reduce the amount of typing you have to make. And again, if this returns anything, it returns an error. And then we have to put the curly brackets for the function. Okay, and then we're going to say the param p is going to equal q or c dot param, and we want the param called this. Again, it's going to match whatever we called it here. Okay, that's the deal. And then we'll just do return c dot string http dot status. Okay, and we'll return p. And there we go. So now let's restart the server. Control C to kill it and turn it back on. So now if I go to /eat bread, it gives me back bread. Okay, so I can tuck away information there. I can say eat rice. I get back rice. So whatever is in that part of the URL gets returned back to me as a param. Okay, easy peasy. Not bad at all. Okay, so that's the Go Echo server. And again, we'll be doing a couple videos on this. So this video, basically, we saw how to set it up, which was pretty easy. We saw how to get a param, how to set up the server, how to use a param, how to use a query. Not bad. Now let's do this in Rust. Okay, I haven't actually. We're going to use a framework that I haven't used before called Actix. I have used Rocket in Rust, and we will come back to that when I do the more sort of like full-blown frameworks, because these are the minimalist frameworks I want to talk about today, and I'm pretty sure Actix is in that category for Rust. So that's what we're going to be using for Rust for now, and then later down the road we'll come back to like Rocket for Rust and Buffalo for Go, which are the sort of the more robust frameworks. Okay, so we will do that. Okay, and I am going to close that out. So again, this is how Rust Actix code looks like. So this reminds me a little bit of Rocket. Again, we haven't done Rocket, but the basic idea is like generally what happens is you have to run this server, and then you bind the server, you run, which I'm assuming is just because, again, usually they all the frameworks kind of work the same in any language because they're all working off the same HTTP library in the standard library. So generally they all have to kind of start with the same initial flow. Like if you're in Node and you use Express, Fastify, or Koa, they're all pretty similar. You use Go, Echo, Revel, even Buffalo. You notice a lot of things are the same because they're all working off the same sort of core HTTP tools. But let's see here. Let's find the tutorial here. Get started. Okay, I'm just going to get started. So we're going to create a new project. So I'm going to cd back up a folder. And I'm going to do cargo new Actix project, or Rust Actix, we'll call it, because I call the other one Go Echo. Okay, so that's been created. Cd Rust Actix. Okay. And now that we're in there, we want to install the dependency. So again, the way we install dependencies inside Rust is we put it under dependencies in the cargo.toml. So literally all I have to do is add that. Okay, and another cool thing you can do that I just learned is that if you want to run the code to see like if there's any errors, but you don't want to necessarily have to like run the whole file, you just want to like let the compiler try to compile it and see if you get any errors. Instead of doing like cargo run or cargo build, you can do cargo check. And the cool thing is that'll also download the library. So by doing a cargo check, I can just download the Actix library. So that's what it's doing right now. It's downloading Actix, but it's not going to go like fully compile it then run it. So again, you have like three options: cargo build, which compiles it and then builds sort of the output library. Okay, then you have cargo run, which compiles it, runs it, and then deletes it, so it doesn't keep it permanently. And then you have cargo check, which is going to compile it, won't run the code, but it's just going to try to compile it, see if it compiles successfully, so that way you get any errors that you would have gotten. but it won't do that extra step of running software. So if you start a server, you don't have to worry about turning it off, or, you know, if you're just looking to see if it compiles, cargo check is going to be really useful, or if you just need to install a library real quick. So see that worked real well. Okay, so cargo check. Cool, so let's see how this works. So we're gonna head over to our main file. So we'll go to source, and we're always gonna have our main.rs, and we need to import all these library, import all this stuff over here. So let's import that. So get post, so okay, so that's kind of how we're gonna choose our different, okay, and notice that like this syntax here says Actix web, and notice we use curly brackets and put a bunch of stuff. The reason is because it's not necessarily, you're not going into a submodule, you are sort of, it's kind of pretty much destructuring the stuff in the module. I don't know if they use that term for that, but you're saying, okay, in the Actix web module, I want to grab these things instead of going into a submodule and put them into their own namespace. So get post web. I could just get rid of this and just say use Actix web, and that can be like Actix web : get, Actix web : post, but that'd be tedious. Okay, so my guess is, again, this is how we're going to write our routes. Not sure what that's going to do. I can take a guess. We'll create an app object with this. This is what we'll use to write responses. This will be used to turn on our server. We'll see how these things get used. Okay, so let's kind of follow this tutorial. Okay, now here we see how a request handler gets written, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to use one of these directives. Okay, get slash, so that's going to say, hey, this is for that URL, so get request to that URL, and then we just pass the function. It's not quite a decorator, because again, these are all pre-compiler directives. So this is going to get compiled into code at compile time. It basically translates it, kind of like those like exclamation point macros. That's the term I'm looking for. Macros. So I'm going to say async function hello. So that's the name of the function. And it's going to return, oh, wait a second, implements, I think what this means, it has to return something that implements responder. Okay, and then again, that's not a fat arrow, it's a skinny arrow, because that's supposed to be the return value of the function. Okay, and then we use HTTP response, which I figured we'd use that for, designating a response. Okay, so I'm assuming there's different ones. So okay would of course be a 200 response. That generally means like the request is successful. Okay, and we do body, and that's going to be the body of the request, and we're going to say hello world. So that makes sense. We're saying we're going to respond with an OK status, and we're going to send hello world. That's all fun and good. And then here we'll do a post request, same style post. Oh, it's got to be in square brackets. Okay, post / echo. Then we're going to add async. And again, the async keyword I'm assuming is to make it asynchronous, like in JavaScript and pretty much every other language. Okay, function echo rec body. So that's going to be the argument, because basically what's going to happen is it's going to receive the request body. So we're going to say, hey, the request body should be a string. Okay, and then if I remember correctly, like from Rocket, like the way we type that argument, or the argument that we want to be the request body, is going to affect like how it comes in. Okay, so we're going to say, and again, we're returning something that implements responder. Okay, which I'm assuming, like these HTTP response, which I'm assuming are structs or something. Okay, they implement the responder trait. Okay, so yeah, I'm assuming this would be like a tuple struct of sorts. Okay, dot body, and then we're going to send over the request body. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Again, this is not too far from what we were doing before. Async function manual hello. Let's see what this is doing. It's not a route. Okay. So this is like a catch-all route. Implements responder. Okay, so it's going to return something that implements a responder trait. Okay, HTTP response. Okay, so it's going to send over an okay response, and we're going to say hey there. So let's see here. Now, have routing information attached. Yeah, but how about this manual hello? Let's think about that. Manual hello routes that do not use a routing macro. Next, create an app instance. So next, we'll create the actual app instance. Okay, and actually the way it looks like, it wants me to actually write these not in the main function, but outside the main function. So, boop, there. Okay, so we'll define our routes. And now in the main function, we'll run our server. Okay, so our function, we actually want to set our main function to return standard IO result, because now in later versions of Rust, you can return a result, which means, like, this is something, remember, like, I was having trouble in the earlier days with, like, the question mark operator. Essentially, the way that works, the question mark operator, is that you can use it at the end of a command that returns a result. And if that result returns the thing, it gets the thing, and if it returns an error, it then takes the function that it's in and returns an error, which means the function that you use the question mark operator in has to be return a result, because you can't return an error otherwise. So that's why I couldn't use it in the main body of the main function, because I didn't put a return value for the main function, because typically a return value for the main function is nothing, which is also referred to as a unit. And that's what the empty parentheses is. So, but you could change the main value's return statement to a result. Okay, and that's essentially what they did here. But that's something that was added later on in Rust. So if that's the case, then you can use the question mark operator within the main function, as we'll see in a second. Okay, so not a bad time to bring that up. Okay, so HTTP server. Okay, so we're making a new HTTP server. So that's what that means. Now we're using these two pipes. I'm not sure what that means. That's new to me. Okay. And we're going to say app new. So we're creating a new application object. Okay. And we will create that new application object. And we're going to say and we're going to chain off of it .service hello. Well, that's not a string, it's hello. And on that note, let's take a look at our functions to see which one was hello. So that's saying, okay, hey, we got this .service echo. Let's see, was one of our functions named echo? Yep, this one right here. So that registers that route. And then I guess if you use this, then you register it using this service thing. And then if it's a route, then you just define it in there. So /hey, since we didn't define it up there, we can just do it down here. So web get, oops, I put that on the string. So hey is the route, web get to manual hello. Okay, so this would be another way of defining a route. If you don't want to add the attributes, I like this style a lot better. That's a little bit more succinct for me, but I get it. So that does that. Okay. So then with the HTTP server, then we're going to bind to the server. So now we're chaining off the HTTP server. And that'll be bound to 127.0.0.1 aka localhost, and we'll bind it to 4000 because I always like to do that. Okay. And then here we use the question mark, which means this bind function returns a result and it might error. So, and then since now the main function returns a result, this custom result, okay, and this should be standard, not, there we go, this result, okay, oh, and then we still gotta put this in there. Okay, oops, not curly brackets, parentheses, because it's supposed to be unit, meaning nothing. Okay, there we go. And then we want to run the server. So assuming the server, like the bind function is successful, then we want to run the resulting server. And then we await, meaning we're gonna just kind of wait for asynchronous actions, aka wait for requests to come in. Okay, so that's it. So now we should be able to do cargo run to see the results. So cargo run. Okay, it's compiling the thing. But see, it's not too bad. Like, that's fairly readable. That's why I like backend. No matter what language it is, it's not too bad. The logic's pretty much always the same. Cool. Oh, we got some errors. Okay, so let's see here. It's only allowed in an async function. Okay, did I forget? That was I supposed to make? Yes, I was supposed to make main an async function. And just like JavaScript, you can only use await inside an async function. Okay, so that makes sense. Oh, still doesn't like that. Main function is not allowed to be async. Well, that's what they do here. Okay, async function is not allowed to be async. Warning error information will say. Cannot compile Rust Actix. Okay, I'm going to assume that it is going to need the nightly version of Rust for that to work. So let me see if I can switch that over. Because see, it's saying the main function is not allowed to be async, but in the documentation. But oh, there's a directive. I didn't see that. So let's see what happens when we add that. Okay, that might change things. So let's run that before I try to switch over to the nightly version of Rust. See if that makes a difference. Because I might sit there and then take all that and just like fix it up, so that way, technically main is not async. Just kind of rearranges it. Because that's what those not directives macros do. Because again, the difference is that macros run during compilation time. Now, if you're talking about like decorators or attributes, and those are runtime things. Okay, well, it's taking a second. Or actually, I think it might be running. I think that's why I'm just sitting here waiting. So let's go to 4,000. And there it goes. There's our hello. That's our hello route. Okay, let's go to manual hello, which would be to /hey. Hey there! Yay! Now for the post route, we're gonna have to use Thunder Client for that. So I'm gonna go grab Thunder Client here, this extension, and let's go to localhost 4000. Localhost 4000 / what was it? Was it just a slash? Oh, the /echo. Okay, so we're making a post request, because again, this said it has to be a post request to /echo. So to /echo, let's see, do I have a body already sent over? I don't see a body. Oh, there it is. Portkey 3, age 13. So if I send it, what do I get back? I don't see the response. So if I need to lift this to see the response, and yeah, I get back the same thing. Okay, so there's my response, which is just the body that I responded, which makes sense because that's what this is doing. It's sending the body as a response. So that works. Okay, so that works as expected. So again, in this video, what I wanted to do is make sure that we know how to use params and queries in each of these frameworks. So we saw how to set it up. The setup isn't horrible, but again, everything's a little bit more verbose in Rust, but that's like the point. The idea is that, you know, it's not as bad as writing C. So and that was sort of like the main reason like Go and Rust exists. Like they're like, you know, there had to be sort of like a more easier or fun to use alternative to C. At least it's the way like the vibe I get. And you know, they both took sort of very different approaches. So like Rust wanted to also just be as make sure it's exactly as fast as C, if not faster. So it came up with this sort of like more sort of verbose way, but more sort of still easier way of handling code that's super type safe. That's basically the idea is like your code should not break, because Rust is going to force you to kind of think through every possible problem, every possible edge case, because typing. Go has typing too, but Go again is going to handle a little bit more of the memory for you. Some of the abstractions are a little bit more higher level, still a lot more lower level than using something like JavaScript or Python, but way easier. So it's faster than Python, Ruby, Go, Python, Ruby, Python, JavaScript. Maybe not as fast as Rust, but again, if you don't necessarily need to go to that, like again, Rust, you're probably going to be building like things like operating system, any kind of systems level program. It's really going to benefit from that. Although if you want to build a really super fast web server, like we're doing right now, Rust is a good choice, but so would Go be. Okay, a lot of people have switched over their web servers to Go because it's a good in between. Cool. Okay, so that's getting started. Let's go to the documentation. Actix Web API docs. Really, it's like doesn't give me more guidance than that before I have to go right into the API. Let's see here, advanced requests, URL dispatch. Okay, so we've done that. Extractors. Maybe this is what I'm looking for. Web path string. Let's see here. Path provides information that can be extracted from the request path. You can deserialize any variable. Okay, so here's where we do params. So in this case, for instance, the resources that is registered to, so params are designated through curly brackets. Okay, these segments could be extracted into a tuple, i.e. path U32 string. Okay, so essentially what we have to do is we have to use this, and that's where the web piece comes in. So we would grab that, and so it's going to be a string. These can be extracted into a tuple or any structure that implements the deserialized trait from Serday crate. Serday is sort of like the serialization crate. Okay, like here they did it as a string. It's a tuple of string. Okay, and JSON. Well, that's just for JSON data. I'm assuming that's going to be from the body, but we'll come back to that. So let me just see here, user ID friend, and I see web path U32 string. Okay. Web, and we're calling it web path user ID friend. Oh, I see. Okay, they're destructuring it. They're unpacking the tuple right there. Oh, that's an interesting way of doing it. That's cool. And then we're going to return a result, which can be a string. Okay. Format. Okay, so let's just use that. Let's just kind of use that example. Okay, so let's make another route. I am going to use this thing. Okay, /get /eat this. Okay, so that's going to be the route. Okay, and then we're going to have an async function called eat, and we're going to take an argument, which is going to be a web path tuple, but we expect that there's only going to be one thing in the tuple. Okay, and we're going to want to unpack that tuple. So we're just going to say that first thing is going to be this. Okay, but we have to type that variable. So we're going to say, hey, that's of type web path. And web path, again, this particular web path is going to be returning a result, which will include a tuple of U32 or a string. Well, actually, that's the type of the tuple. So in this case, all I really want is a string. Now that I'm reading it, I'm realizing I think that should be just like that. Okay, so essentially it's returning that, and then result. Oh, that this parentheses should be. That should be here. There we go. Okay, results. And then again, that result should be typed as well, so that the result should be a result that returns a string. Okay, and then we're going to do an OK struct. That'll tell us that the result is OK. And then we'll inside the OK tuple, we're going to have a format string that says welcome. Well, not this. We're going to say I'm going to eat this. Okay. And then again, the argument will pass is this. Okay. Let's see, is there anything else I need to do? No, that should do it. Because again, this will be caught by passing in an argument like this. So this, I see this in other frameworks where you basically have to include an argument to receive the param. I always like it better when it's like tucked away in that like request context object. I just find that to be more intuitive. Probably it's because I learned Express first. So that was just the way I've always done it. Although I'm used to kind of things like this from like Java Spring or Python Flask, where a lot of it's done by basically including parameters with your argument. Okay, so cool. Now let's just restart the server. Compile it. Oh, it doesn't like something. So let's go see what the errors say. Okay, format. I'm going to eat this. Cannot infer type for parameter e declared on the enum result. You see here, okay, format. Where is that? Okay, format. I mean, that looks correct. This trait bound function action fast string implements. It's not satisfied. Factory. Let's see here. Actix main. Where did it all go? Okay, here path user friendly. Let's just read the other errors. The trait bound, implement standard future. Tree is not satisfied. And the future is that's it. The future is their version of like a promise. Okay. It's not implemented for. Let's see here, get web results. Do I have results? Oh, okay. So I think I need to get their special version of a result from Actix. That's, I think, the issue. So cargo run. Yep, that's looking better. Yep, so that was it. Just had to import the special version of result that they use. Okay, so now I should be able to go do a get request to eat/bread. Oh, didn't like that. Is it 4,000? Is that what I'm bound to? Yeah, it is. Okay. Let's just see here. Help remove these parentheses. Fault. Okay. Eat bread. Let me just make sure I eat this. I shouldn't have to put this, right? Oh, yeah. And let's just see. Does the other route still work? Hey. So that does work. Oh, because I didn't register it down here. I gotta do that. Dot service eat. So we connect that. Let me compile this again. It's telling me I can take out the parentheses on that result, but we'll do that after we try this out. Eat bread. I'm going to eat bread. Okay, so that works. Cool. Now let's just see if it works if I do take off those parentheses. It's asking me to take off. So if I take off this, let's see. I go run, building. I don't want me to remove those parentheses too. Okay, well, let's just see if it still works. I will eat cheese. Still works. Okay. So I guess if there's only one param, you don't need to pack it as a tuple. You can just do web path and then just pass in the variable name because there's only one. Okay, so that makes sense. And then that's the type of it. So that's all fun and good. Now how about a URL query? Okay, well that's that. Okay, so we now know how to extract the query. Now, here we go. It's also possible to get or query the request for path parameter names. So in this one, what they did is they created, you receive the request object, and you can get it that way, which I like that better. Okay. Oh, and then you can get the query that way too. Let's just see if it gets any more complicated. Parse, unwrap. Okay, I mean that's not. We'll see how they would do it the other way. So that's a thing you can do. It's kind of interesting. You can do that. So you can choose which way you want to do it. If you want to type it as a parameter, and now if I want to get the query type, provides extraction functionality for the request query parameters. So let's see here. So we need to get Serday deserialize. I'm going to assume, I mean, I installed Serday on its own before. I'm going to assume that maybe it's packed in there already with Actix. That's going to be my hope as a dependency of Actix. So I'm going to try just to do this. Use Serday deserialize. Okay. And basically you have to type it. So index info string into info successfully. Info.username. Okay. So essentially what we have to do is really create a struct with the deserialized property, which the deserialized property is just a property that Serday, that a macro that Serday does to make it easy to take a struct and turn it like into a key value pair type object, JSON. It's very useful when you start wanting to send responses and whatnot, because otherwise it's really painful. Okay, so derive. So we're deriving the attribute deserialize. So this is going to implement deserialize for our struct. I'm going to just say struct meal. And it's just going to have, our struct is going to have cheese, which is a string, and bread, which is a string. So that's the struct. Okay, I'm just going to copy this route here. And we're going to call this meal. And then we're just going to have a route, just slash meal. Okay, and the way I want to do this, just kind of follow the pattern they have here. So I would create a param, so we'll call it meal. And we're going to say web, : query. That's going to be its type, but it's going to follow the type meal. So basically, if the query matches that type, so it's going to take all the key values in the query and say, hey, does it match the struct? Okay, and if so, then it takes the struct. And we're just going to return a string, so we don't need to return a result this time. Okay, and then we're going to format. I am going to eat and this. Okay, and then we're going to just have it be meal.cheese and meal.bread. And we know that those variable properties should exist because technically this meal property should be typed as from the query as a type of meal, and meal should always have cheese and bread as a string. So basically Rust can be like, yeah, this should all work out, assuming that there is a query string. Cool, cheese, bread. Yes. Okay, now I just need to register the service. Okay, dot service meal. And then let's just compile. Nope, didn't like that. Cannot compile Rust Actix. Okay, I'm going to assume we need to install Serday. So Rust Serday. Serd. Okay. It's all fun and good, but I want to see the installation piece. Okay. Just give me the newest version. Which will probably cause me problems, but whatever. Okay. So we need to add that over to our cargo.toml. So Saturday equals 1.01.130. Let's see if that gives me any problems. Or do I need to be less specific? Okay. Serialize, I mean, that looks like it's spelled correctly. Let me see here. Saturday 1. That's in there, so cargo check. Unexpected token. It says unexpected token, so let me go back to the thing here that I used that. Oh, that's what's expected. It's not complaining about my use statement either. Use Saturday deserialize. Derive deserialize struct info string. We imported it. Use Saturday deserialize. Okay, let's do that again. And we're gonna add the verbose. Okay, flag. So let's see here. Okay, so Saturday is in there, it looks like. Looking through all the libraries is installing. Saturday derive, that's in there. Saturday JSON, Saturday UI encoded, yeah, it's all there. So I don't think I necessarily need to have this here. Okay, so first it's complaining here, so expected one of, did I forget the semicolon? Is that the problem? Yes, that is the problem. Okay, cool. Go back over here and just take a look. This is still complaining. Use of undeclared crate or modules. Saturday. Import resolution is stuck. Try simplifying the macro imports. Expected struct string. Found enum result. Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't think I need to do that there. Okay, format. So it does that. Well, that one's a string. I just see it using a string. Drive, struct info. Oh. Fix that function. Yeah, let's go back to a result. String. Okay, let's see what it's complaining about now. Do I need to use the extern command somewhere? Why would I need to do that? Active web main. Version for the drive, the trait bound for the meal. Running through the 3 previous errors. And macro get and nightly builds run with z macro backtrace. Use of undeclared or modules. So let me put that back. Okay, so if I put that back, do you still complain? Nope. That's good. Okay, so that was it. I didn't need to install it. Cargo run. It's building the thing. And now I can go to /meal and then add a query at the end and say cheese equals Gouda and bread equals rye. I'm going to eat Gouda and rye. It works. Huzzah! Yay! We can use query params. Okay, so that's how that would look like. Actor main RS. So just again, I just look at it again. So you do need to install SERD. That's and then you create a struct that derives deserialize, and then you type the query parameter to be of that struct, and then you have it. That's it. Okay, so basically what we learned today is just we saw how like Actix and Echo and Go work in Rust and Go. So again, this was day 20 in our 100 days of Rust and Go. So we've learned quite a bit. We're coming a long way. And my name is Alex Merced. You have a great day and enjoy.